Hey, they called me. So Meeden reached out to me and they said, hey, we're doing something in August. Do you want to be a part of it? And I said, well, what is it? And they said, oh, it's a BTS promotion. And I said, I don't really like that kind of music. I don't think I wanted to have anything to do with that. They said, no, BT it back to school. This guy's a moron. That's what they were saying in the background. I heard them. So I said, yeah, okay, what do you have in mind? What are you doing? And they said, well, we're promoting our furniture stuff. And the first thing that came to mind, remember last time when I did the paper and I was like, oh, one of those carts would be nice. But what I really wanted was one of those desktop easels. And I said, I've wanted one for a very long time because sometimes I'm used to putting like a board in front of me and the watercolor, not on camera, of course, I just do the top down on the desk. But when I just sit here and just do it for myself, I usually have like a board in front of me and then I have the paper on it and then I paint and it's kind of leaning on the desk. The ones that I've seen all sit on top of the desk, so I'd put it too high for me. I like to be right up on it. I know it's not good. That's what everybody, you're not supposed to do that. That you see people, this is what you usually see when people are painting. I don't do that. I like to get right up on it and I'm basically moistening the paper with my breath. That's how close I get to it. I get right up on my paintings, but you can't do that if it's up here. So I said, you know, one of the ones where the thing drops down below the desk, that's the kind of one I want. They said, go to the site, tell me which one it is. I went and I said, you know, but I also use these for panels as well. So I would use this for like panel painting. And they said, okay, so we'll send you some panels, we'll send you the easel, and you just let us know how you like it. I said, absolutely great. So they sent me two different sizes, the 9x12 and the 6x9s. At first I picked out the 6x12s and they said, oh, we don't have those in stock anymore. How about something else? And I said, oh, the 9x12s. And then they sent me both of them because they're great people. Now I have already opened them up. And not these, but some other ones that I actually painted on because I already did the paintings. You just didn't see it yet. Haha, I know something you don't know. But when I looked it over, I said, you know, the edges are pretty smooth. I've bought panels on Amazon before. It was a nightmare. Now, some of them are good. I'm not going to say they're all bad. Some of them were okay, but I got the less expensive ones. They were terrible. They were all warped and wobbly and that it was all like fraying at the edges. There was gouges in the wood. It was terrible. Not theirs. So I said, I don't know. Let me see what they look like. And theirs are nice and clean. There's no gouges in them at all. It's flat completely. This one has like 1.5 inches deep. That's crazy. That's insane. But that's one of them. The other one is like 3/4 of an inch. That's what I'm used to getting. I'm used to getting like a 3/4 inch depth cradle. And that's fine too. But I actually really like the way that blocky look is. And I like that it's an off size. That's why I asked for the 6x12. Because I wanted it to be an off size. That way I could put something slim somewhere. Or something panoramic. And it would just be nice. And I think this is what I wanted. So I'm going to do 2 paintings today. One on each. So on the 9x12. I'm going to use this here. This Daniel Smith transparent watercolor ground. I've used this a lot. I say a lot, but what I'm saying is I've used it enough where I've had to buy multiple jars. So they're only like 4-ounce jars, but you don't take very much when you just coat something. This is something I did on a tile, and I did a little kestrel. You see that? And the thing I like about the transparent is you see all the texture behind it of the tile itself. It's keep focusing on my eye. Okay. So it's you see the texture behind it of all the tile, and I like that. I think that's nice. So I'm going to try and do that with the wood maybe a little bit on this larger one. I'm going to coat it with the transparent ground, do a painting on it, and leave some of the wood open and see how that looks. On the 6x12, I'm actually going to take some Liquitex matte medium and just coat the whole thing, put it down on some watercolor paper, and then trim the edges so that it's the exact size of the board, and use it as just a cradle, and put the watercolor paper on top so you can paint on the watercolor paper. And I use, I don't know what you use, but I use a cold wax to seal things. If I'm going to leave them open and just stick them out, I usually seal them with a cold wax. Even if I buy it from someone else, I put the cold wax on it. It's very simple to do. If you want to see a video of me sealing watercolor paintings, I can show you how to do that. But the coal wax is great, the Gamblin coal wax. You just take a little pad and you just kind of, you rub little circles all the way around it, and it seals it, and it doesn't activate the watercolor. And it seals it in so that there's now a coating of wax on top. So if any drips or spills get on it, not that you're having it on a coffee table where you're dumping a cup of coffee on it, but I mean, if someone's talking like I usually do and I spit on it, then it's not going to change anything. You won't see a little back run or anything like that. It'll be fine. So this is not a good look for me. I just did another video that I was going to release now, but since this is an August event, I'm releasing this one, and next week you'll see another one where I talk about how someone complained that I'm just a review channel now. But anyway, we clarify that real quick. But anyway, I am reviewing some things now, and I'm letting you know what I think of them. So this is the desktop easel, and it's got a little clip here. This thing comes down, and the thing that I like, see how this drops below the bottom? That means I can sit here and I can get on top of that painting and have it almost in my lap like it's just sitting on a board. Only it'll be very sturdy on the desk. It's wonderful. And it's heavy. I don't mean heavy in a way that it's unpleasant. It's just substantial. You know that it's sturdy. So, and I'm going to use, I did use this in the painting, but you're going to see this little shelf thing here, this little drawer here, and it has little dividers that I put in, and you can pull this whole thing out and put your supplies in there if you want to, but it feels like it's going to last forever. You can probably put someone in the hospital at least with it. So my initial thoughts on it are that it's good, it's fun, it's something that I'll use. And like I said, this is something that probably will not live in my studio even. It will probably live somewhere else in the house where if I just want to pull it out, put it on a tray table and paint while I'm sitting on a couch or something, there it is, and I can just use it that way absolutely fine. It's different because I'm not critiquing like an art supply where I have something that, you know, it's not working the way I want to or something like that. All I know is it seems sturdy. This is wood. They say it's wood, and it's flat, and that's good, and it's smooth on the edges. It's nice, it's sanded, it's not like where the thing's peeling up on the side. You're not going to get a splinter when you pick up your board to paint on it. So far so good. I have nothing bad to say about any of these things. I did notice very slight, just to let you know, when you put this down on the table, and just a very, very slight from corner to corner movement. It's not bad. It's just that it's, I guess, 100%. It's not 100% perfectly even on the backside. But when you hang it, it's hanging and it's kind of off there anyway. So it's not going to do that. It's not from side to side. So if I lay this, if I was putting this on a wall, let me see if I can show you here. So if I'm putting this on a wall and it's on a hook or something, from side left to right, it's not moving. Left to right doesn't move. Only if it was perfectly flat could you see a slight from corner to corner is what I'm saying. But I have never in my life seen one that wasn't. So these are on par with any of the ones you would ever buy. And I would say, and they're an amazing deal, by the way. I just want to mention again, I'm probably going to mention it about 10 times in this video, but this sale, if you go through the link down below, I think this is going to be like 15% off. And then there's something else where if you buy 2 of something, it's 15% off. I don't know if that applies to these panels or not. It might, but some of the things, if you buy 2 of something, it's 15% off, or the furniture stuff like that easel, it's 15% off there. And it's so much less expensive. I remember when I was looking for tabletop easels years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. No, it was longer than that. Maybe like 8 years ago. They were much more expensive. I have a Sienna Pochade box that I have, and it's smaller. And the thing was well over $100 when I bought it. This is so much less expensive. And then 15% off on top of it. This is what I would go with. I would trade that Pochade box in a second for something like this. Okay, so I took a piece of Arches watercolor paper. I wanted to use good watercolor paper. I'm going to make sure I flip it so the top side is down. And then I'm going to put, what I love to use on this is the Liquitex matte medium. That's my favorite glue for art. It's just what I use all the time. So I'm going to use a lot of it here. And if it's too much, I'll wipe it off. But I'm going to use as much as I can here to put this on here. It works like magic. It's like glue, and I'm going to get it all over my desk. I should not have done that. That's terrible. That's okay. I could hit my head on the camera as well because I'm standing up to do this. So don't worry about it. I'm fine. So as I do this, I just wanted to mention that, yeah, if you go to the Meeden site, you'll see, and I have the link for it. That is my affiliate link. I do get a commission off of anything you buy off of there. But they are doing a special right now where they're doing, I think it's 15% off on a lot of stuff. And some things are like if you buy 2, you get 15% off. Some things are just marked off 15%. Depends on what it is. But they are doing a back to school thing. The other thing I'm going to be doing is a video on... It's coming. This is not helping my case here. This is a video about how someone accused me, and maybe rightfully so, of becoming just another art supply review channel. Just another one, just like everybody else. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that I have some things to say about it. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to let that sit, and then what I'm going to do is, once that's solid and firm, I'm just going to go around the edge with a razor blade and cut it off. Just cut off the extra paper around the edge. Alright, so I'm going to do the other painting first, and I'll come back to this one when it's dry. Alright, so I think this angle is pretty good. I actually like the way that it looks. I like how you can kind of see everything that I'm working with. I got everything on the screen at least. I'm starting this extremely wet. You'll see me just dump some water on there and then start, and the first few layers are going to be very wet, very thin. You're barely going to be able to see the color very much, but that's okay. That's how I wanted to start it. And then as I built up the layers, I went a little bit darker and darker, and I think it got good. It's decent saturation. I didn't like the way the clear gesso performed on this. It was not the best. I also want to pop up on the screen. This is another one that I did on a tile with white watercolor ground, not the gesso. You know what I mean, the watercolor ground. This time it wasn't taking the paint very well, and I wasn't exactly sure why. It's not the fault of the board, that's for sure. This is stuff that's supposed to seal whatever you're putting it on and then act as watercolor paper, and I don't think it did quite that. I mean, I know that there's a darker tone behind it. It's like working on toned paper, so you have a darker tone for the watercolor. But I just don't think it took very well. It just didn't take very... And I put on about 3 layers of the stuff on this board, and for whatever reason, it's just the ground. Now, I haven't used the ground in a while. It's been a while, quite a while. So maybe it went bad. I don't know. Does gesso go bad? I've heard people say it does. I've heard people say, yeah, gesso goes bad. It breaks down something with the binder or something. I don't know. But anyway, in the end, I was fine with how this turned out. I actually enjoyed it. Now, even though I wasn't really happy with how it turned out, and it was probably user error. Everything that happens that's wrong on this channel is user error. Don't worry about that. But I was happy with how this looked. You know, I couldn't move the camera back anymore, and this is the widest angle that I had, so you don't see everything, but you can see everything I'm using in the shot. I basically didn't have to edit this section of the video, which is a good thing, because let me tell you something. There's like 6 hours of video that I recorded for this video. 6 hours. I recorded it down to about 2.5 hours and then sped up the drawing and painting part to whatever the end result is here. I don't know what that's going to be yet because I'm still making it. But let me know if you like seeing everything on the screen. The second one, I also had everything on the screen, but the paper kept flying off the side, so my hand kept leaving the screen. But I like that my hand doesn't leave the screen in this first one. I'm just using everything. At least you're seeing something happen, so I don't have to cut big chunks of the video out every time my hand leaves the page. I try and cut that out on a normal video so you don't see that. And I had to on the second one a little bit more too. But for the most part, I didn't on this first one at all. It was just a couple of times when I had to stop for a second that I had to cut some video. Most of the time, I just kept painting. I was just not worried about it and just kept going. I think it worked out well. And you see that there's plenty of room. That's that drawer that's pulled out. and I set those compartments up to those sizes exactly so that it would fit my stuff. So you can do that. Those little the vertical one is the one you can set up however you want, and I believe there's the horizontal one that you can set up however you want. There's two of them. But other than that, everything else is just in there. You can pull that whole thing out if you want and just use the wooden drawer. There's no problem with that either. But I enjoyed using it. Everything was in one spot. And this is, you know, I don't like to use anything other than a water brush usually. I usually use a water brush on these videos because I don't like getting my desk wet, and every time I'm dipping, I'm splashing, I'm moving the water around, whatever. I didn't have to worry about it. It was all contained inside that shelf thing, that little drawer, and anywhere the water was going was fine. I put a little towel at the bottom of the rung of the easel itself, so if anything dripped down, it was dripping on a towel. You see that, and you see like the corner of it sticking up. And then anything I was spilling going from the pot to over to the pans, or from the pot over to the drawing board and the board itself, it worked wonderfully. Everything was contained. I just wiped it out after I was done, and there was no problem. And that's a big concern for me, so I usually don't. So I would use a regular brush now, and I like those big angle brushes, which is why I like the full pans, because if I use the half pans, I can't get that angle in there. It doesn't work. So this way I can get the whole angle brush inside that full pan and go ahead and use it. And that's the kind of brush I like to use. So that's why I use those full pans instead of those. They annoy the crap out of me, those little tiny. I couldn't even imagine some of those other ones. They're like, oh, this is an eighth pan. What's an eighth pan is not a thing. But I want you tell me, do you like seeing everything I'm working with, or do you want just the thing I'm painting on to be the center of the actual focus of the camera view? But I can put all this other stuff in it, just back up a little bit, and you can see it from that distance, and then you can see everything I'm using. There it goes again. You don't worry about that. We got to silence that. It just wouldn't be a video without that kind of an interruption, and so I leave it on sometimes, not on purpose, ever. Now in the second video, I want you to also pay attention. I usually use these straight from the pan, like what I'm doing here in this particular section of the video. In the first drawing, I did everything straight from the pan onto the board. That's how I did it. And that's how I usually use paints. However, in the second drawing, or painting, or however you want to look at that, I call everything a drawing. So that's just what I call it. Even though I'm using paint, I call everything a drawing. Anyway, so in the second one, I mixed all the colors because with this particular palette, I'm really enjoying the muted tones I'm getting once I mix all these colors. I think it looks really nice. I think it works very well. As a matter of fact, that second painting, that second drawing, that is my favorite thing I've done so far this year. I don't think that I've liked anything more than that particular piece. So I might put that up on the wall behind me and just leave it there. I absolutely love it. I think the color palette works great. The line work works great. I absolutely enjoy it. Now, normally I don't like mixing colors because I don't like spending a lot of time mixing. I may actually take some of these colors that I'm getting here that are mixed and make pans with those colors in it, and maybe try and do something like that with a couple of them. Not all of them, just a couple of them. But again, this palette is almost full. It actually is full. I can't fit any more pans in there, so I'd have to go to a different palette with the new colors. But I think they look beautiful. I absolutely enjoyed using them, and I think that's a big part. The reason that I don't is because I usually like to save time, so I'm using a water brush, and I'm saving time by just going straight into the pan, straight on the page. And I like those colors too. I really do. It's just that these muted tones that I'm getting is something else. It's something I have not experienced with any other palette so far. But you can see the colors on there. They're all like muted tones on the whole thing. There's not really anything bright. I guess the New Gamboge is a little bright. The orange is a little bright. But the color itself is a muted tone. It's not that they're not bright on the page. It's that they're just muted colors. And those I've found have always been my favorite thing to use. I've never liked the bright colors. I've always gone for the more muted stuff. Now you'll also notice in that first painting, the way that I have the easel set up, I don't have it drop down below the front or below the bottom of the desk. And that's because I'm recording it, and I can't do that. I can't record my lap. So I had to have it up a little bit higher. I just raised my chair up a little bit, and it's working just fine. I am still right up on that. You just can't see it because I backed myself out of the frame, but it's all right there for me. I'm still right up on top of it. And another reason that I would prefer this over that Pochade box is because I don't like having anything between me and the surface that I'm painting on. Like I said, I like to get right up on it, but I don't like that space where there's a palette in front of me looking at the thing. Now, I know a lot of plein air painters, they have that right in front of them because they have basically their canvas or their board that they're looking at. It is in line with the thing that they're painting. That way they don't have to kind of look up and down constantly at what they're painting to what the page is, to what they're painting, to what... I get that, but for someone just painting what's not necessarily in front of them, or I'm not trying to get anything very representational at all. Even when I paint in plein air and I'm using something as inspiration, I'm not actually painting the thing. I'm painting a representation of the thing that doesn't need to look exactly like that thing anyway. So for me, looking up and down doesn't matter. I still like to have it closer to me. So now I can have all of my supplies out to the side of me, which is what I want. I want everything to the side so I don't have to mess around with what's right in front of me. That the thing that I'm painting on or drawing on needs to be the closest thing to me for me to enjoy it. So that's the way that I work. Now, originally, this was going to be one of those art supplies that I love that I never use kind of videos. But instead, I decided to say, hey, look, this is how you can use these things. Because I really do enjoy using these things. I enjoy using, aside from the easel, aside from that, just using board to paint on. I absolutely love it. And usually I do paint with like acrylics or the water soluble or the water mixable oils or something like that on these. But this time I decided to use something else that I love. And that was the watercolor ground from Daniel Smith, especially the transparent one. And I think it just could be maybe the way that I did this, because I've used that 100 times before and it's worked excellent every other time. This time in a long time, I should say, it has not worked very well. But like I said, it's probably user error, probably did something wrong. But I enjoyed doing the painting anyway. And you can draw on top of that too, which you saw me do. So I coated this whole thing. Like I said, there was like 3 coats of that stuff on here and everything kind of worked well, except the watercolor just didn't act the exact way that I wanted it to. But it doesn't mean that it would have acted any different. Listen, the watercolor ground does not act the same as watercolor paper. I know people like to tell you that it does, but it's still different. It still acts very different. It does absorb some, it absorbs the color a little bit more into it than the paper would do normally. Depending on your water control, it can get a little splotchy, where it looks like almost you're having back runs and things like that, when normally you wouldn't on the paper, but you did this time on the watercolor ground. Or if you go back into it with water and try and loosen it up a little bit, sometimes it doesn't react the same. That's all. It just doesn't react the same as watercolor paper, no matter what they tell you in the advertising. For whatever reason, the watercolor ground is great, and if you learn how to use it, it's wonderful. I've used it many times. I love it. But sometimes it just acts funky on me, and I can't control it. I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong or how to use it. And sometimes that changes from painting to painting. It happens. You just have to go with it and just keep going. And that's what I did. I finished the piece. I kept going. And when I'm drawing, though, I did drop it down on the table when I started drawing. And the one that I did on the paper, I didn't use the easel either, because I recorded them at separate times. I had moved it down into the garage. I was going to do this whole thing where I took you down into the garage and I showed you a setup that I have in the garage for painting. But it was so long and so boring, so I cut it all out. Yes, it was more boring than the rest of this, but it was just so much information about something that I'm not doing, so I didn't do that instead. But I left the easel down there. So I came up, I was like, you know what, I got to get this done. I just slapped it on the desk and started painting the second one straight on the desk. And I did all the drawing on the desk as well. But I will still use this all the time. I'm just probably going to leave it down either in the living room or leave it by the back door, because I don't travel a lot, do a lot of plein air painting, but I do go outside a lot, and just on my porch, my back porch, and I sit there under my little gazebo thing, and I just sit there and paint sometimes and just enjoy the outdoors. There's no houses behind me. There's a road behind me, but it's not that bad. So there's no real houses much behind me, and my yard in the back is blocked by trees anyway. I don't have any in my yard, but on the other side of my fence, there's so many trees I can't even see the houses across the street that are behind my house. So it's just nice, it's relaxing, it's peaceful. I can't see my neighbor. Well, one neighbor I can, but there's no one living there again. Oh, here we go again. We're going to have an anxiety attack from having the neighbors gone. Now someone else is going to move in there. I don't know who they're going to be. I'm going to be worried about it and have anxiety about it and imagine all these ridiculous scenarios until they get in there, and then I see what kind of idiots they actually are. But in the meantime, the other side, I can't see them. They're nice, though. They're fine outside. They don't have a problem with them. They're wonderful people. On the other side, now I have no idea who's going to be there. That's okay. But I'm going to take it outside. I'll sit on my back porch. I'll set it up, and I'll just paint. I have a little table out there. I'll just paint outside. It'll be nice. I am going to wait for it to get a little bit cooler out, because now it's like 106 in the shade. So I'm not going to do that. I've got to, and you know what? It's not so bad with the heat. It's the humidity here. We just had ridiculous amounts of rain for like a week straight. We're going to have like another week of rain. And even when it's 85 and it says, oh, it's 85, it feels like 105. That's ridiculous. That should never happen anywhere on Earth. But it does, because the humidity is disgusting. So I cannot wait for October. It's just, even September is a little warm and humid. But October, towards the end of it, and you get into October, then it starts light jacket weather, or at least you go outside and it's just a cool breeze or something. That's what I like. That's my favorite time of year. I cannot stand the heat. I don't like I know I live in the South in the U.S., but I don't like the heat. I just can't stand it. So there's only like 2 or 3 months that I don't go outside. The rest of the year is fine. I love going out in the middle of January and cooking on the grill and sitting outside in short sleeve. It's nice to be here. The summer months, they tear me apart. What about you? What do you think about the weather? Do you like the hot sun in the summer? That's like I think I've mentioned this before. I hate going to the beach in the summer, because you go to the beach, you just cook on the beach. Even if you get in the water, you're just boiling yourself. It's silly. You shouldn't do that. You wait for the slightly cooler weather. I know the water gets a little bit cooler. It's okay. It's nice to be refreshing. You don't want to get in there when it's freezing. I'm not trying to join the polar bear club here. I just want to get when I'm going to go in the water, it's going to be a little bit cooler if I go in the water in the sea. That's another thing. I grew up on Long Island in New York, and it's just surrounded by water, so there's beaches everywhere. We're always at the beach. And you go in the water, and you have no idea the things that you feel touch you or slide past you, or you step on, or you walk over, or you're starting to swim and you hit something. You don't know what that is. It's freaky. That's a freaky thing. All of a sudden, you're just like walking along, and you're just embedded in like a bed of seaweed and weird things in there. It's ridiculous. Not that lakes are any better. Listen, there's plenty of stuff in the lakes. You go, oh no, it's just a lake. There's no sea creatures in there. There's water creatures. They're just freshwater creatures instead of saltwater creatures. They're still in there. And there's plenty more snakes in the in the fresh water. You got snakes going all over the place, and they swim in the water. And if you don't believe me, go to one of those. You know, they always show the island pictures where they have all the crystal clear water. You can see all the way to the ground. Yeah, you can see all the animals that are going to touch you when you get in that water. That's what you're looking at. To see that animal, that's going to touch you. See that animal's going to touch you too. I don't like any of that. I don't like to be touched at all, let alone by some weird sea creature. I am way off topic. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. So here's the thing. If you have a problem with that, you can take it up with these people showing up on the screen right here. They will defend me to the end. That's the contract we've signed together. That's what they said. They said they would defend me to the end, and that's what they'll do. So thumbs up the video if you are going to at least explore, just take a look around at some of these things. I know I started to sound like a commercial there, but I really just absolutely love these products. I love painting on wood panels, and I love a tabletop easel, and I never had one until right now, and I'm very excited about it. It might just be a honeymoon phase, but right now I am excited about it. All right, if you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. All right, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one.